Lights went out in house and hamlet as they came, and doors were shut, and folk that were afield cried in terror and ran wild like hunted deer. Ever there rose the same cry in the gathering night, "The King of the Dead! The King of the Dead is come upon us!" Bells were ringing far below, and all men fled before the face of Aragorn. But the grey company, in their haste, rode like hunters, until their horses were stumbling with weariness, and thus, just ere midnight, and in a darkness as black as the caverns in the mountains, they came at last to the hill of Erech. I think there's probably quite a interesting little comparison there. I'm sure it was not unintentional that the king, well, the first prospective king from a long dead line appeared at that point as the king of the dead to them. Like, yeah, so long has it been since there's been a king of Gondor, but it seems pretty relevant. Uh, but anyway, I've gotten completely aside because I was enjoying that little passage. Welcome to a modding preview for Gondor at War again. This is going to be the second episode of the Fiefdom Focus. Thank you all for all the support on the first one. It did really well. It was quite a popular format, which I'm glad about because I enjoyed doing it. I think it's a nice way to be able to show all the work that's been done. And so let's crack on into it. We're going to be looking at the Blackroot Vale. This is a very cool little fiefdom. It's tucked up in the north in the mountains, and it, as you may have gathered from that passage, is where the rugged mountain men lived and their ancestors. I'm assuming their ancestors were the Army of the Dead. I don't think any new people moved into the region after the Army of the Dead event occurred. We should probably chuck a CSM in for that. That would be quite cool just to have like a little mountain pass here. But that aside, we're going to be looking at the grim men of the Blackroot Vale today. So when we were designing these people, we wanted to emphasize their ruggedness, and Mav's going to be really annoyed that he's not fixed this for this video. But this CSM isn't quite in the right place, but we're going to do our best to look at it through what's there. So this is Erech. It is a... Oh, my mouse is too sensitive to... Oh, there we go. Got there eventually. This is our CSM for Erech. As you know, we've done pretty much every settlement in Gondor has a unique CSM now. And this one I think is particularly cool. I like that it's all built into the side of the mountain. And I believe somewhere here there is actually the Stone of Erech incorporated into the CSM. But I'm looking for it, and I'm not quite seeing it, but I think it's there somewhere. Maybe it's that dark a bit. Probably not. It might have been that Mav asked me to add the CSM of Erech into the campaign map instead, rather than building it into the city CSM. I don't know. But somewhere I can promise you we will have the Stone of Erech. Maybe it's that stone there. It could be anywhere. It could be any of these. It could be none of these. Either way, I like the CSM. It's cool that it's all built into the surrounding hillsides. It just looks nice. I don't know. Is that a ruined tower at the top? Either way, I'm on board. That's all I can say. And Erech is the only settlement within the Lamadon Vale. We're looking at Peneth Gellin over at Ronrundir. And sorry, did I say the Lamadon Vale? I'm going to say the Blackroot Vale if I did. Apologies about that. And then Calimbel is the next one across, which is I believe that's Lamadon. But anyway, we're holding off on those. We're just going to keep it focused on the Blackroot Vale. This will be a shorter video because there's less to cover here. But let's get straight on into it. One thing I'm sure some of you will be very happy about. This settlement is a little bit awkward to click. The cast model isn't quite where you'd expect the settlement to be. But I'm sure we'll fix that for the release build. Because also you don't want the label obscuring the CSM like that. It's not ideal. But one thing you'll all be glad about, I'm sure, I bothered moving this icon for this preview. It's not perfectly center, but it's much closer to where it should be. To way up over here. No, I can work with that. It's far less triggering. So this is much more representative of what the build will look like that we're shipping. Erech, it's not the richest region in Gondor. It's a bit of a mountain shithole. It's I'm trying to think of a good comparison. It's kind of like Wales. We should have some sheep. Well, we're not a million miles off with sheep with the Orcs cattle field. I'm sure that the men of the Vale come and raid that all the time. But anyway, casual digs at the Welsh aside. Stone of Erech is a custom building. It just provides a bit of free upkeep for any units, but I'm assuming it says Blackroot Vale Archers. Well, I know it says Blackroot Vale Archers there, because they've got a entry in its EDB. So even if you can't recruit them, there will be free upkeep there, which is good because you can't recruit them. Well, you can't without building the Fiefdom camp first. You might be wondering why you can also get Ringlow Pikemen and Lamedon Clansmen here. And that is because they're going to be, well, Blackroot, you might Vale, is part of Lamedon. So the approach we've taken with Lamedon is that you're able to get all of the Lamedon units throughout all of Lamedon. So rather than trying to make it too granular, just so that you get them a bit more. It's still only 3 regions, so you don't get an absolute ton of it, but it's nice just to be able to have them, because otherwise, like, the only actual Blackroot Vale settlement here is Erech. So being able to get a relatively early game archer only from there would be a bit sad. It's nice to have it a bit more expanded outwards. And the same for the other units, but we'll save them for their respective regions previews. I'm only going to focus on the Blackroot Vale stuff here. So, yeah, coming in at the first tier, you can see that we've got 2 tier 1 units, the Wardens and the Archers. I believe that the Archers are probably a bit stronger. They scale a bit more into the late game. We're going to avoid looking at the stats until we're actually in the battle. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the win here. Oh, yeah, we'll do... No, whilst we're in the settlement, we'll do the garrison first. I should have checked this. That should have a garrison from the Stone of Erech. Oh dear. I'm going to do a strategic cut here. I'm going to keep this take because I was quite happy with how I did the reading at the start, in all honesty. That's the only reason. Be right back. We are back again. I had done an oopsie and I had set the garrison up so that it would spawn for Mordor, which is not ideal. I have already checked this just to be sure. So select the settlement and then naturally the button's disappeared. That's because it updates when you select it. So like the idea being if you deselect a settlement. Anyway. Yeah. I need to rig up the button better. Is the answer there. But did I mention earlier this is an alpha build? Like, it might be a bit buggy. Nothing is quite finished yet. So, if we look here, we can see that there's only a very small garrison. You get 2 units, the Blackroot Vale Wardens and the Blackroot Vale Archers. They're both decent early game units, but this is a weak garrison. The only garrisons coming from here. We don't have anything set up to come from the land clearance. So, it is a weak garrison, unfortunately. But if we wanted to get it a bit stronger, you could build the Fiefdom camp. That gives you a territorial guardsman, same as the meeting hall. Then eventually, like your market and so on, would give a garrison unit. I might give Greenway units from no, Greenway from roads doesn't make sense unless it's the actual Greenway north-south road. But I'm getting sidetracked. The point is that it's possible to get a better garrison there, and I don't mind that it's weak. It's so far out the way. There's some serious problems if you're ever in a position where you're defending Erech anyway. So it's more for VAI, and also it's a poor region. It's not a particularly important part of Gondor, as far as I'm aware. So I'm not against it just being more of a weaker backwater settlement that's less well defended. It's not like it's DA. So that's that. However, it does have a custom bodyguard line. So, and it does start with a sizable force of these Blackroot Vale Wardens and the Vale Archers. The Wardens are a hybrid unit of spears and javelins, so they're a nice touch. They're quite similar to the Lebanon Marines, but they're cool, and they have different. The stats are slightly different. And we've taken the view that because it's not recruitable in the same location, it's okay for units to be similar niche wise, because it's still like it's atmospheric, isn't it? And if you've got Pelican Marines, they're likely to go down south. These guys, from where they're more over this way, they're more likely to come over yonder and fight you an Isengard or an Edwave. So they're occupying different enough areas of the map potentially that we've taken the view that it's fine. Like this. Yeah, it's cool. But anyway, over-explaining things that don't need to be over-explained aside, let's have a look at the bodyguard upgrade options. So, Dwyn here, he starts with the Stone Wards of a Wreck. This is not a recruitable unit. It is purely a bodyguard one, and they're quite powerful. They're basically a better version of the Blackroot Vale Archers, but they're very strong. If we go on to look at the Man of Blackroot one, I need to set up a display name for that one. That's the name of the trait, hence why it's formatted like that. And then I can set a label which will make it look like actual readable text rather than a bit of Pascal case. But if I select that, this is what we're looking at for the bodyguard upgrade options. So you've got the 2 units that are available from the barracks. There's a bit of a trend here for how I've set up these bodyguards. You start with the units, and then it goes on to a custom one if they've got it. But I like the progression. I would rather have worse units to start with, and then better units become available, and then your OP one, I say OP, it's not an OP unit, but your strong custom unique bodyguards become available later on, because I think it's cool. And if we do the change bodyguard line, then we can see that to go to the tier 2 unit, it's 800 kills I've set it to at the moment, so like we can configure the stats. If you miss how the bodyguard system works, basically with your bodyguard, when you get 800 men killed, like when you kill 800 men with them, that upgrade will be available, but that number could be set to whatever. So if it comes out in balancing that you need loads more, then we can sort that. I just noticed that was able to take me into the red. I should probably add a check where it won't let you change paths if you don't have enough money to just do it. Make a note of that. And you might have noticed that his bodyguard size hasn't changed. That's intentional. His actual bodyguard has changed. There's a little sneaky preview of what we got coming. But I added a check-in so where if the unit he had was smaller, then the unit starts with that, and then it replenishes to full strength over a couple of end turns. Otherwise, you're just spawning men out of nowhere, and it seemed a bit weird. So this is the men themselves getting upgraded. But anyway, I'm on a tangent. So yeah, it's a cool line. I quite like how that works. And it's not the most powerful set of bodyguard upgrades, but the Stone Wards of Varek are a bit unique, and they do scale well into the late game. This is all we have on the campaign map for this fiefdom. It's nice and small. You're not really under any threat. You're probably going to be either going south or west with these guys. Probably west, I'd say. But they're flexible units, and they're cool. I think around turn 30-ish, his son comes of age as well. And any of his offspring will have the Blackroot Vale trait. So, and all the future ones of the... I forgot the name of his house. Mav's going to be disappointed for that. But of house, let's just call it House Dwyn here. All of the future ones will have the same bodyguard lines available. They won't have this one. The Dwyn here one, that's unique to him. But this will be available to all of them. So, I'm going to stop babbling, and I'll see you on the campaign map. Battle map. Definitely the battle map. Not doing very well, am I, this video? And we are back again on the battle map this time for the Blackroot Vale. So, we'll start off with the Spearmen. Unfortunately, these guys don't have an armor upgrade. This model was made by Bill Baraka. Fate Med 2's modding granddad. A controversial one. Anyway, we don't need to get into that. So, I really like this look from. It's like it gives off proper rugged mountain men vibes. They've got cool helmets. Like there's a mix of like the wetter ones. Like they just give off a good I'm a rugged bastard, but I also can't afford plate armor vibe, and that's exactly what we're going for. So there we go. They have javelins and decent ones like that. 3 missiles, 6 javelins. You know, that's respectable. They're definitely still more of an early game unit than anything, but they're very cool, I think. And yeah, so it is what it is. They don't have any armor upgrades because we couldn't actually think of what would be like what would fit with them to add to the model as an upgrade without actually just taking from them or making them look stupid. So this is how they are. They might get a upgrade in the future in the sense that we'll make this the final upgrade and take some stuff off of it, but that's not in place for now. So we're just going to move on. So here we have the Blackroot Vale Archers. Again, really nice design. I like that they don't tend to have many helmets, and the helmets that they do have are a lot more open than the infantry. This makes perfect sense for an archer. You need to be able to see and hear more, and you're less likely to be on the front line, so you're less worried about your protection, potentially. So, I think that this works really well. It's very similar design. Is he missing an arm? He's not missing an arm. It's just from that angle, his arm really blended in. Like, yeah. Looks like he could be missing an arm there. But, it's just... I don't know, I'm blabbering. These orc guys are useful. They're not the greatest archers in the world, but for an early game unit, they're solid. And also archers with spears and shield are always useful. If you didn't know, the shield stat applies regardless of if the unit's holding its shield. So these will be relatively tankier than you'd expect with 6 armor. And also 4 missiles is nothing to scoff at. That's just like a solid above average archer. Can't go particularly right with them. Also just can't go wrong with them either. And then we move on to the bodyguard variant. These look like a more professional soldier. They're more in keeping with the mainline Gondor. The helmets on these guys are made by Coma, and then it's kit bashed by Mav using the assets from Coma and Lorinian. These helmets are all pretty brand new and they look absolutely fantastic. I like how they're obviously Weta inspired. Some of them I think straight up are the Weta helmet, but Coma's take on it. But they're just very cool helmets. And these guys are basically just a better version of the archers. With one twist, they have poison arrows. So they scale much better into their late game with those. And their stats are good. The 6 missile, 200-meter range, 30 arrows. Like, you just cannot really go wrong with those sorts of stats. Just a solid all-round unit. They do have a visual upgrade as well. It's only the one visual upgrade, but I couldn't remember which day it came in as, so I just gave them a gold chevron. Not chevron, sorry, gold shield. So yeah, they just get the Gondor chestplate. I think I prefer them without the chestplate, honestly. Feel like they stand out more. But it's nice to have a visual upgrade and it makes sense. So, let's see if we can outperform the Corsairs with our incredibly archer-heavy army. If you haven't seen them before, these are the new Corsairs by Bill. And yeah, this is probably the best model he's ever made, I reckon. They just look so cool with their Barbary Corsair inspiration. Or Barbary Pirate, even. So let's go kick some Corsair ass. Read position a little bit. Actually, let's use some tactics. You guys go there. You guys go out on the flank. You guys come out on this flank. I think we have the archer advantage. So we gotta make the most of it. Don't want them to close the distance too much on our archers. Yeah, you can see those poison arrows whistling in. Bunched up nicely. Just make sure that we're firing on the denser bits. Solid volley. Have we nerfed these guys yet? No, he's still got ridiculous javelins. Yeah, I was very caught out on a campaign I did testing the dev build a few months back, where these guys just have an insanely strong javelin for no apparent reason. 10 AP for a spammable militia unit is very depressing. So, whilst we got a little bit of a lull in needing to do anything, I'm just going to say a little thank you for supporting the series. The Dol Amroth one did really well. And there's a little disclaimer as well for the Belfalas Man at Arms. We didn't have an official upgrade in the video. Mav made one about an hour after I recorded it, and I wasn't able to re-record it before it went live. So those guys actually now have a visual upgrade. I believe they've got a downgrade as well, so they start the game with just a chainmail, they don't have the chest plate. And then later on they get the chest plate once you get an armor upgrade on them. And then their shoulders change as well after that. I might do an updated version of the video at some point, or tag them on the end of another somewhat relevant fiefdom, so that you can see those guys, which would be cool. So yeah, and that video went really well, I thought. If you've got any suggestions for what you would like to see next from this series after this fiefdom, then please let us know. Admittedly, I did entirely ignore the suggestions that were on the previous one. Someone asked about the Sarnak, I believe, or it might have been to do an Eastern fiefdom. Someone asked about a Western fiefdom, so I've just met in the middle and done a Northern one. But that more had to do with the fact that this one was ready to present. I was originally going to do the Sarnak, but there was going to be a new CSM made for them, which Mav is still working on. So I'm holding off for that. And I'm going to aim to do these videos with a 2-week cadence, so it should be semi-regular. We're smashing these guys now. They've just not been able to compete with our archer supremacy. But, so yeah. And one thing that was quite cool, we actually do listen to feedback as well. I know. Shocking. Absolute. I'm amazed as well. But someone mentioned in the last video that the voice lines for Dak they've always thought are a bit uninspired for Dol Amroth. They'd rather see something different. They suggested Moss, but their voice lines were better because they were more passionate. We didn't actually like those voice lines too much, but he volunteered to actually try voice acting some voice lines for us. He did a really good job. So he's actually come on board the project as a contributor, making voice lines, which will be in for Dol Amroth and maybe some other fiefdoms in the future. So perhaps there'll be enough content to do an updated Dol Amroth fiefdom focus. Yeah, I'm glad that the series, people are enjoying it and it's doing alright. It's quite obvious that I've largely ripped the format off from Galu. It's similar to his faction focuses, or sorry, faction overviews, which he'd used to do. I just made it a bit more granular by splitting it by fiefdom because of how much extra detail we've put into each one. At this point, if we were to do a Gondor at War, Gondor roster video, I dread to think how long it would go on for. We've probably doubled the size of the roster at least with all of these extra units we've put in. So I think this works better. And it's nice to be able to focus in a bit more. Show each area its own little bit of love. So, I'm quite happy about that. But yeah, if there's anything more that you'd like to see, or so on, just let me know. Always happy to see comments. It's good to get. I like getting a bit of engagement with you guys. It's quite motivating. I work full time, and yeah, I do sometimes feel like, do I want to record right now? I'm actually on holiday at the moment. Thought I'd take the afternoon off work to get back and do this. So there we go. I'm done babbling. We've won the battle. This was beautiful. This is actually the second take. My recording failed for the first one, and I decided to put us against half a stack of Barrow Whites last time, and that was an absolute travesty. So I'm glad that this went a bit better to showcase the units more. So yeah, this has been Blackroot Vale for Gondor at War. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Please do leave any feedback. I'm saying that again. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I hope that the rest of your day is Gert Lush, because that is going to become a thing. We're all going to be saying Gert Lush. It is the official channel slogan when I remember it's a channel slogan. And I will see you all for the next video. Bye now.